Hey everyone, welcome to the Community Toolkit Roundup. We're excited to be back here at .NET Conf again in 2025. I am Michael A. Hawker, also known as the XAML Llama, thus the hat, and I work on the Windows Community Toolkit, which we'll be talking about all these different toolkits and what they are coming up here in this session. I'm a senior software engineer at Microsoft, and with me today are Sergio and Gerald. Sergio, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey folks, I'm Sergio Pedri. I'm an engineer on the store client team, and I also maintain the .NET Community Toolkit. Really excited to talk to you today about all the toolkits and everything that's good that we have in it for you. And with me is also Gerald. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sergio. My name is Gerald. I work remotely from the Netherlands on the .NET MAUI team, on the SDK itself, but I'm also involved with the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit to help our community members create this lovely, wonderful project that we're going to talk about today. So let's learn about what all the toolkits are. And well, actually, I already mentioned the community. Let's talk about that first. All the community members, right? It's all about you as well. So thank you so much for joining us, not just here, but also in contributing to these wonderful products that we're going to talk about right here, and everything, because you are the community, right? It's the community.
Yeah, we would not
talking about you.
We would not be here without you. Yeah,
exactly.
It's it's thanks to everyone's great work and contributions that make the toolkits what they are, and really empower everyone in the .NET community to deliver great software and experiences for anything that you're building. So it's really cool to see the power of the community come together and create really awesome solutions for tough problems. So the agenda today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what we've been talking about, all these different toolkits, dig into the specific different toolkits that are available to you in .NET, and the specific .NET technologies you might be working with. There's really something here for everyone, so be sure to stay tuned and find out how these toolkits can help you. And then we're going to be talking about how you can get involved if you want to be part of that community that you saw on the other slide there. How do you dig in and contribute to these open source projects? And that's the main thing that we want to talk about with the toolkits here. They're all collections of libraries that are .NET based. We're open source on GitHub. They're all MIT licensed and part of the .NET Foundation. So it's really easy to jump in here on GitHub, see what's going on, see how these things work. Right? They're great examples of components and code that have been used by thousands and thousands of developers across so many different projects that are getting used across the whole wide world. So it's really, really cool to see the power of open source and the community. And these projects are really about bringing the community towards together with us on these .NET based technologies, working with the teams that make those technologies, and us at Microsoft that work in these spaces that these technologies are based on, and just bringing this all together in a melting pot. It's really cool to see. And we've been around for nearly a decade. It's been a long time. We've grown in that time. We've got a lot of projects, as you'll hear about today, and that Sergio and Gerald are here with me to talk about. There's just a lot of activity. We see a lot of excitement. We've shipped a lot of code that's got used in a lot of different things. So we've really been able to touch the whole globe with impact across all these different projects, and seeing what, it's not just about what these projects do and how much they're used. It's about what the people are building with them and what those things go on to do and how they get used. It's really exciting to see how this stuff has evolved and all the things people build with it. Gerald and Sergio, I'm sure you have many stories as well about the great things you've seen people do with your toolkits as well.
Yeah, we see stories all the time about people building all kinds of applications, really, and just using the toolkit and so much. And they always tell us how much time that we're saving them, and like how, especially because many of these features that we have are things that everyone kind of has to do, and instead of just them rebuilding the wheel every single time, you can just rely on the toolkit, and then you just let it do all the work for you, which is super cool. And also to add on what you said earlier about like how so many projects in the community are using the toolkits, it's not just that. Like even ourselves within Microsoft are using the toolkit so much. Like so many of our inbox apps, like the store, for instance, are using the toolkit. C# components within Windows 2 are using the toolkit. So it's super cool to see this, how everyone comes together, like you said, like not only the community contributing features, but also ourselves building features maybe that we would want for ourselves, but then instead of just keeping it private, we just contribute to the toolkit so that everyone else then can benefit from our work as well. So it's just everyone just working together, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and we actually gave a whole...
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Gerald.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely what I've been seeing as well. I just wanted to add, like, in our space at least, like, talking to customers, it has been like, I start a new .NET MAUI app, and the first package that I install is the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, right? So that's just so how important it is, how much it is used, and you can see the numbers right here, especially like the number of downloads, I think has doubled or more than doubled over last year. I have the number right here. Like last year on this kind of exact same slide, it said like 37 million. Now we're up to like 76 million across all the projects, right? So it's crazy. What were you going to say, Michael?
Yeah, I just like, I'm always installing, the .NET Community Toolkit, the MVVM stuff, the Windows Community Toolkit, whatever project I'm working on .NET. Like the one of the first things I go to install to get the next thing I need is Community Toolkit. But I was also going to say, as Sergio was saying, building the Microsoft Store app is built using the toolkit as well. And we gave a talk at .NET Conf a couple of years ago all about, how that came to be and how the store team was contributing to the toolkit and putting some of the great things that they'd created for that experience within the reach of others to be able to leverage within their own apps. It's really quite cool to see everything that gets built using the community toolkits. And the way I like to think about it is like the platform provides something that 90 to 100% of everyone's going to use within their app, and then the toolkit, we maybe you're only going to use some of the things in it 20, 30, 60% of the time, but amongst all those things, you're really going to be using every little bits and bobs of the toolkit in different fashions that you're going to pull out. It's just not something that maybe everyone needs in every single app or experience that they're building. So that's the way I like to kind of piece things together in my mind and look at how the toolkits relate to the platforms themselves.
And I guess that's also kind of dependent on what toolkit and what thing you're talking about, right? Like the MVVM toolkit, like I have a lot of people who are saying like, why is it not just built into MAUI, right? Well, it's kind of like platform. Sergio, you're going to talk about this. I'm sorry, but it's kind of like platform agnostic, right? Like it transcends MAUI or Windows or whatever. You can use it in all kinds of things. So it wouldn't make sense to have it in one project because people can use it in any other .NET-based project, right? So that's the really cool thing about that. So.
And that's why we came together as an organization too, right? We have our GitHub organization here. It's just github.com/community toolkit. And that's where all these projects live, right? We have these common interests and goals around being open source .NET projects that are part of the .NET Foundation, that are helping .NET developers with, anything that they might need in the work that they're doing related to these different technologies. And yeah, there's the .NET Community Toolkit, which is very broad and works across any .NET project you're going to want to be building. I've seen it used in games, we've seen it used in apps, as we've been talking about. Like there's something in there that you can leverage pretty much in any .NET project that you're working on. And then, we have more specialized things like MAUI and Windows, Aspire, and these projects have, more specific needs. And so they have a separate repository. And, we try to share our experience and knowledge about how we're running projects, engaging with the community and building these tools and, how we build these tools and get them out and ship them onto NuGet. That's a whole process in itself. And so we take all these learnings, we collaborate, we work together, but each project has its own little nuances beyond that. But we work together as a community. It's really great to see this energy in this space where we can have that and do that so transparently. So without further ado, we've been talking a lot in general about what these things are, but like, what do these toolkits actually give you as a developer? So let's dig into that. And Sergio, will have you kick things off with the .NET Community Toolkit, as it's, like I said, has something for everyone.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, so the first toolkit that we're going to talk about is the .NET Community Toolkit. This actually started out earlier as part of the Windows Community Toolkit, and then we pulled it out to be its own standalone toolkit because we figured it didn't have to be anything Windows specific, but we wanted to make it clear for everyone that this was just targeted to any .NET developer, no matter what framework or kind of app you're building. And so one of the main, the most popular components of this .NET Community Toolkit is the MVVM Toolkit, which is our official first-party library and kind of framework for building apps with MVVM. And so we have a whole bunch of new features in the latest version, many of them which have been hugely requested by the community. So the first one that I want to call out is we now have support for partial properties for the observable property generator. You can find docs for this online, but in short, since .NET 10 is now available with partial properties in the new version of C#, you can now have partial properties and then have the generator fill in all the implementation with the backend fields and all the property change logic to basically not have to write all the boilerplate yourself. And this also gives you like a very, very compact code and a very efficient implementation to just very easily write view models for MVVM apps. We added a whole bunch of new analyzers to help you write code that's more robust and just catch common issues that you might have in your apps. We spent a considerable amount of time in making sure that we would support AOT for both UWP XAML and WinUI 3 XAML applications. This is because we had to make sure that our generator played well with the CS-WinRT generator, which is the one that powers all the Windows Runtime API projections that both UWP and WinUI 3 uses. And then not only that, we also have a whole bunch of new additional small features or improvements, many of which contributed by community members. In particular, I want to call out, we have this new stream extension for read-only sequence of byte, which lets you conveniently just create a seekable, readable stream from a read-only sequence of byte. And this is an example of something that was entirely proposed and then contributed by a community member. You can find the original issue on GitHub and the PR that we just previewed and then approved, and now it's part of the toolkit for everyone else to use. This is a great example of how the community can often just become part of all the work that we do to make our toolkits better. And like I mentioned, this is part of the two of the other main components of the .NET Community Toolkit. So it's not just the MVVM toolkit, but we also have the high performance package and the diagnostics package. Again, we have docs for all of them as well if you want to learn more about it. And yeah, with that, please, if you tried out the new version or the new generators, let us know what you think. And like any kind of feedback is welcome. If you find issues, please log them on GitHub so we can look into them. And with that, I'll head over to Gerald to tell us more about the Aspire toolkit.
Thank you so much, Sergio. Yeah, I'll be taking my turn for Aaron in this case, because he couldn't join us for this recording. He's been super busy. He's on the other side of the world as well, so this time didn't really work for him. But he's been leading the Aspire Community Toolkit, which is super, super exciting. I'm sure you've heard about Aspire, right? And I think the Aspire team might be a little bit mad at us because of the introduction that we did just here, because we were saying like the toolkits, all for .NET-based technology, etc., etc. They're just like rebranding. .NET dropped from the Aspire, dropped the dot, right? It happened right here, because this is not just for .NET, right? It's for all kinds of languages. I see here Rust, Go, Java, Dino, Bun. Maybe they're just writing random words here. I don't know. But these are all languages that you can use with Aspire, right? Aspire is your orchestrator for all these projects, so you can just hook them up. I like to think of it as like your multiple startup projects in Visual Studio, but on steroids, right? You just write your whole application landscape in one file in code. You'll have a complete set, and you can say, hey, wait for this. You can define all your dependencies, all these kinds of things. But because it's not just .NET, because it's like this broader ecosystem thing for all kinds of languages, all JavaScript frameworks are, okay, maybe not all of them, there's a lot, but a lot of JavaScript frameworks are supported as well. You can just hook them up to this, and it's really, really amazing. And because of that, they also launched the Aspire Community Toolkit 12 months ago on .NET Conf 2024. Since then, they've been going nuts, right? Like they grew from 12 integrations, they call it integrations, to 50, right? So that's really amazing, with over 50 contributors, with the majority being non-Microsoft people, right? So again, this comes from the community. They have like built-in database support for all kinds of technologies as well. They adopted and evolved Dapper integration from Aspire, right? So that one, and I think now others are kind of like started in the Community Toolkit as well, which is something that we try to do. Like, hey, something we're not really sure like how it's going to be, what the final form is going to be. Let's start in the Community Toolkit as kind of like an incubator, let it grow from there, and then bring it into the actual product. And that's what's happening here for Aspire as well. They're going to follow the versioning scheme for Aspire. So as you've just learned earlier in .NET Conf, Aspire is going straight to version 13, and the Community Toolkit is going to follow that same pattern as well. So lots of good stuff here. Definitely follow that. And with that, let's switch over to the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit that I can actually talk about, which is a great project as well. Haha, because I'm involved, so that makes it instantly better. No, but also here, like, our contributors are the best. This is ran by mostly community contributors. We have, like, you know, our specific set of core maintainers. We run a little Discord. We have a little monthly stand-up every month where we talk about the status of things. But this is run by you, and you have a lot of requests. You are using this a lot, as I already mentioned, like talking to you at events and things that I go to. It's always like, we install the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit the first thing in a new project. So that's really, really amazing. Thank you for that. If you don't know what it is, if you've been working on .NET MAUI projects, the chances are that you're working with XAML, right? And if you're working with XAML, then you are writing all these converters all the time, right? Converters is one thing because you get all these string values in XAML, and you have to convert that to something, a style that shows up on your screen, or an image, or whatever, right? You have to convert it to some other thing. We have basically all the converters, almost all the converters that you will find in any project, and you've been writing them over and over again for each project, taking them to each project, but now you just have the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, and you can take that. Same with like the behaviors and some other kind of stuff. So we got all of that on board. But we also have like full controls, right? We have completely new controls. Camera view just got an update. Which is really amazing. You can show a little camera preview, right? Because this is, of course, like very much specific to mobile devices, Android, iOS, but also Windows and macOS. But you have a little window, a camera preview that you can use, take pictures. But now we also implemented video recording, right? So big thing, donated by someone in the community. Vlad, I think, has done a lot of work on it. He's on our core maintainer team, and he's all doing it in his spare time. Media Element got an upgrade, so it's using now Media 3 APIs on Android, so that's a new big thing. We got a cool media player that can play audio and video inside of your apps. Offline speech recognition. We completely rewritten the pop-up implementation from the ground up, so pop-ups in your apps are going to work better than ever before. And of course, loads and loads and loads of bug fixes and stability, quality of life things, because we know this is important to you, so we want to make sure that this is the best version always. And that's a little bit about the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. So now over to Michael to hear about the Windows Community Toolkit.
Thanks so much, Gerald. It's always great hearing about all the cool things that your community is building and putting in the MAUI .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. I work on the Windows Community Toolkit and been maintaining that for the majority of its lifespan. It's been around a long time. It started over 9 years ago. I actually posted a whole discussion on GitHub with a whole bunch of that history and information about all the things that's happened in that time and all the great contributions that our community has done in that space. And the Windows Community Toolkit is very similar to the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, and it's a collection of controls and helpers and extensions. But in our case, it's for WinUI developers, so WinUI 2, WinUI 3, and Uno platform as well. So if you're working with any of these XAML-based technologies that are using the UWP-based XAML that now became WinUI 3, where we've got stuff for you that's going to just make your life easier. As Sergio has been saying before, and Gerald, like all these types of different toolkits gets used and just help developers, bootstrap and focus on creating great experiences for their users rather than, trying to figure out how to build just these common building blocks. And we have our latest release that was 8.2 in the spring that added native AOT support for both the UWP in .NET as well as WinUI 3. We added a couple of new controls. So we had the upgrade to the switch presenter, which makes it really easy to change, what you're showing within your application, and added a new switch converter to help with resource swapping. We added and fixed the in-app acrylic brush for WinUI 3 for effects within your app, updated the debounce timer implementation. So many bugs and fixes in here, and just controls that will help you out. And like Gerald was talking about too, like we've incubated a lot in the toolkit, and then a lot of that has ended up in the platform. So like the navigation view control, which, you know, a lot of Windows apps you'll see use, started in the Windows Community Toolkit way back when as the hamburger menu was its original name. And we continue to see that process happen. We were just talking on the MAUI community call last week about the wrap panel, which has been in the Windows Community Toolkit for a long time, and how we're bringing that into WinUI as well on its journey. So just really exciting to see this evolution and over time, and how much it's grown from just being a single project about Windows to a whole community around .NET. All of our incubation work is done in what we call the Windows Community Toolkit Labs. And so we actually have another generator for dependency properties in there that just takes all the headache away from that, all the boilerplate. It's very easy to do dependency properties wrong. So there's analyzers in there. It helps just remove all that and just make it a single line of code to get going with dependency properties. We also have a really cool opacity mask view. And there's some other new controls in there too that have been added by the community, like the marquee control is getting some updates. And so there's a lot of cool stuff. You can look at our app from the Microsoft Store at aka.ms/Windows Toolkit app and see all the great controls and helpers that are available to you to build your app. And with that, we're going to dive into talking about, you know, if you want to contribute, if this all sounds exciting, if you've built something cool that you think is going to be useful for others, then come join us on GitHub. It's, it's a great community. There's a lot of people that are, working with us on these toolkits that are just excited to see cool stuff and help people build great things, and that's what we empower developers to do. So you saw those faces at the start. That could be you in the future.
Yeah.
So the first place to start is just finding us on GitHub. Like I said, it's just github.com/community toolkit as an organization, and from there, if there's a specific .NET technology you're working with, you can dive into Windows or MAUI, or maybe you're looking to at that whole production of an application and digging into the Aspire stuff, or you're just doing just general .NET stuff, and the .NET Community Toolkit has a whole bunch of helpers around making things more performant and very specific scenarios that are have this broad use for anyone working on .NET. So it's like, find that project that resonates with you and jump in. Like, look at the issues list, look at the discussions. Just chiming in into those discussions is the first step of contributing to a project, right? You're helping further discussion along, or you're shining a new scenario that we didn't think of. Is it something that you would use, right? Or how would you use it? That sort of information when talking about new ideas, or if you've been able to reproduce an issue too on a different way or in a different scenario, like all those types of things are useful, right, Sergio, Gerald? It doesn't take much to get started.
And also to add to this, there isn't just a single way for you to contribute. Just as an example, doesn't have to be necessarily a new feature. We've had a lot of contributors that maybe some of them, for instance, are very, very passionate about unit testing. And so we had many of them just contribute PRs to maybe add some new test cases that we missed, or just improve our test infrastructure, or just refactor some things. Some have helped us improve our pipelines, maybe just updating dependencies that we had. It's really can be any kind of contribution. All of that is all welcome, and still helps us a lot. So
yeah,
Gerald,
even just opening an issue with high quality issues, not one-liners, things don't work, here's a log message, chances are not likely to be fixed, but just provide high quality issues that will already help us. Maybe even a failing test, right, that we can then go and fix. So contributing lower threshold than the bigger projects maybe that these are attached to. So super easy to get started, beginner friendly. We have a lot of people starting with us and then growing out to go and do bigger things. Speaking of which, I think we want to talk a little bit about like, hey, what are, things that we are looking for, talking about higher quality. And also this is a great story, especially for the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. I recognize the text is a little bit small. It's not super much about like what's actually here. But, even though it's a community project, it's not like we're just going to add anything, right? We're just going to, okay, just come on through. It's like a hobby project. We still kind of like have standards. We want high quality stuff. And again, we organize ourselves a little bit. So it's different from toolkit to toolkit. But at least kind of like the Windows and the .NET MAUI and the other ones as well, we have our own little process with, if you want to add like especially a new feature, come up with a little bit of design, convince us why that is the right thing. We will have a little discussion. We can do that online during our monthly discussion in the .NET MAUI case. And we can talk about that. And the camera view is a really cool story because this was something that a company that was using the Community Toolkit a lot in their projects. They were like, we're developing this camera view, and as a way to kind of like pay it forward, we just want to take that implementation, donate it to, contribute it to the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit so that everyone can benefit. So that's, I think, a really great story about like how this is about community and how this is a cool project.
Yeah, and that's really the key point is like, the only place to get started with, jumping in is to join the conversation. And that's happening in issues and discussions, right? Every project's a little bit different. Like in the Windows Community Toolkit, we start with a lot of ideas with discussions in our Windows Community Toolkit labs. And then those turn into issues when we're like, have something that we started putting together, and we use issues for bugs. But, it's really about having that detail and that, communication is we're all coming from different places. We're not always like, able to respond right away, or, everyone's kind of globally set that's working on these projects. So, having that detail and like having that design of like a new API that the camera view kind of, structures here on the left of like, here's what the C# looks like. Here's what the XAML looks like. That's super helpful to drive a discussion and talk about with others on, is this the right, shape? Is this the right name for the property? Oh, maybe we could try, making it easier to use like this. That's how I always start with an API design. Is like, how do I want to use this in XAML? I'm going to write the XAML of how I want that control to end up, being used first, and then work backwards to figure out how to make that work for the code, and then how it's actually going to, be implemented. And it's the same thing with bugs. And that's the example that I put here on the right. Again, the text is small. It's not really about the specific example that we're talking about. It's just about the structure here, right? Like I was, as mentioned, we're bringing Wrap Panel from the Windows Community Toolkit into WinUI. And as part of that, I was like, okay, well, let me like go in and like really kind of detail out how this control works. And I was like writing this little sample. I'm like, this isn't behaving how I was expecting it to. So right, here's my example code, right? And this is how it works in this scenario. But then I was like, well, if I change this scenario where, the rectangle is going to be on its own line, it disappeared, right? Like I would expect the rectangle to still be there, right? And that's that last little bit. It's like, this is what my expected behavior was. Like I had to fudge it because there was a bug to make it look like that, or, muck it up in Paint or whatever. But like, here's a complete, bug that someone can look at. They can go copy that code, reproduce it, see what was expected, right? They could write a test against it, as Sergio said, right? Like those little bits, like it can even be multiple people, right? Maybe someone writes a test that says, okay, here's how it's failing, but I don't know how to fix it, right? Someone then could pick that up and they can go fix it, and then it fixes that test, but maybe breaks another one, right? So then, that's how this whole collaborative process and how it comes together, and how the community, empowers us all to do stuff better together, because it's hard for any one person to do everything and to fix all these things. And not everyone has expertise in all these different areas, but collectively as community, we do, and we can move that stuff forward. So that's really exciting. So we're getting short on time. The last thing I'm just going to say is like, even just docs, documentation, samples, like that's a huge part of these projects that empower everyone else to get the power out of them. And so that's a great place to start contributing as well. All the docs are either within the source repository or up on the documentation repository. It varies a little bit again for projects. So if you're not sure, just ask. And that's a great segue into how to get in touch with us. We have a presence on Discord and on social media. GitHub is really the central melting pot, so it's the easiest place to kind of chime in and get the most and more probably immediate attention from anyone on a specific thing. But sometimes it's easier.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. The Aspire also has, we don't have a link right here, but they also have like a Discord and everything set up. If you just go to aspire.dev, DEV, you'll find all the links and all the information there for the Aspire one.
Yeah, and yeah, sometimes it's easier in social or in Discord to have a little fluid conversation. And then what's really important is this, that we bring that back up to GitHub after to kind of summarize what our findings were. So yeah, screenshot this if you need to get in touch. And then these are all the links about jumping to the docs or to the different GitHub projects or any of these specific projects that will have more information if you want to start using them or get involved with contributing. So thank you so much.